Good morning, everyone. My name is Francisco. Thank you for being here on a Saturday morning. I know there are like so many different activities that you could be doing, but for you to be here, I'm grateful, okay, because we are all on this here. There's like so much that we're gonna share and experience and how we can bring our community together, okay? I'd like to do a brief introduction of who I am. So my name is Francisco Torres, okay? I'm the founder and general manager of Compost for Life, a compost community initiative, okay? So when I decided to create, okay, Compost for Life, it's because I used to live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for 13 years, and there was a compost service, okay? And I used to work in corporate America, doing a lot of traveling and working in the food manufacturing industry. And I saw firsthand the amount of waste that we generate. And to me, waste is a very funny word, and we'll get into it in a little bit. But when I moved to Miami, I realized, wow, there is so much that we can do here. When I started meeting people, they were here, nobody cares about recycling. There's no compost and this, but I was, but I do care, So what do I need to do? And I decided to quit my job after 13 years of working for this organization because one, I wasn't getting a sense of fulfillment in my life. And I said, if I die tomorrow, what am I leaving behind? Am I leaving our planet a little bit better? Am I doing something about it, or am I thinking just about my benefit, okay? So that's when, I decided to start Compost for Life. And the first week that we collected compost, we only collected from 5 families, and that was in October 2020. We collected 110 pounds. Today, we're collecting over 35,000 pounds per week. So that's a sign, okay, that there's a community coming together, and we're very proud because it's really about creating awareness and understanding in our connection with our ecosystem, okay? Yeah, so by the way, Vizcaya is very unique because we've been able to form this partnership where we don't only collect all the food scraps on a regular basis from their cafeteria and their events, but we also get their yard trims. And then not only that, we bring finished compost for the horticulture department. So it's like a full cycle, and it's a beautiful thing, okay, how we can be regenerative and really utilizing all these resources that Mother Nature has given us, okay? So with that, I want to give you a little bit of our agenda today. There is no way that I can speak about compost without talking about the climate crisis, okay, that we are going through, because we need to create that understanding and awareness. I don't want people to leave from here and say, oh yeah, this kind of my hobby or something cool to do. No, you are doing much more than that. You're impacting our environment, you're impacting our natural resources, you're impacting our community. We'll be looking at waste versus compost. We'll be looking at the environmental impact, of Compost for Life. We'll be touching bases on the waste, and we'll be talking about obviously a composting process, okay, how we're gonna compost at home, or how you can compost in a community setting, okay? We'll be looking at the waste enhancement solutions, and then at the very end, I have a little planting activity so we can get our hands dirty, okay? So I just wanna make it fun, very informal, okay? If you have any questions or concerns, or maybe I didn't explain myself, please stop me and then interact, I don't want to be the only one speaking here. Please ask questions, comments, share, okay? Because we're all on this together. Sounds good? Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, great. So when we look at our planet, the year I was born, it was 1981, 43 years ago in February, which is crazy. We were only 4 billion people in this planet. Today, we're almost 8 billion people. There are 5 more of us every second. So if we think about it, 1, 2, 3, 4, there are 20 more human beings in our planet in 4 seconds. By tomorrow, there are going to be 100,000 people more. So when you think about it, what does that mean? More people. More space, right? More stress in our natural resources. We need to grow more food. There is more demand, right? So when we look at our planet do not have infinite resources. Our planet is a globe, right? It's circular, and it has finite resources. So now, more than ever, we need to live in a sustainable way. We need to build a circular economy, and we need to create an understanding. When we think about food waste globally, if we take it and we make it one country, it will be a third country with the highest emissions of greenhouse gases after China and the US. That's the impact that food that ends like waste in a landfill has in our environment. Anyone can tell me why? What happens when I send my food waste, well, when I make my food waste that ends up in a landfill, what happens? Let's say today, if you're not composting at home or you're not using our services, what happens to your food scraps that end up in a landfill? Well, so it gets piled up, and we'll get into it in a little bit, but it generates methane gas. Methane gas is very negative for our environment, and it's one of the main gases that create global warming, okay? But that's a problem. We'll be looking a little bit more in detail into a landfill, okay? In Miami-Dade County, we're sending 32.6% of the food or the organics to a landfill. So that's why this movement that we have created is from the ground roots, from the community. Now we're more than 400 families and more than 50 businesses that participate, okay? And we are adding more as we speak. Why did I add the fish kill in October 2022? There was one morning, have you been to Biscayne Bay? So you have, right? Do you remember that morning in October of 2022? We woke up and there were like 20,000 fish, more than 20,000 fish floating in the water. Just, yeah, in Miami. There were like, a lot of people were concerned, you know, of what happened. So what happened is that as we use pesticides and herbicides to the grass and landscape, because I want to make my grass prettier than my neighbor, or like, you know, I want to make it super nice, we're applying all these chemicals, okay? But what happens when you overuse and you don't know why you're using the chemicals, just to kill the pest? But there's much more going on than that. When it rains, all that runoff brings all those bad chemicals to a water, okay, which is Biscayne Bay. That generates an algae bloom, and that algae bloom kills the seaweed that generates the oxygen. Then you create an unbalanced state, and then you're killing an ecosystem. This is fully preventable, but if we're in ignorance and we are not aware, then it's a problem, right? Because I'm sure most of the people didn't mean to do that, but if you don't understand what you're doing or the consequences, then it's a problem, right? So like anything in life, when we make decisions, there are good consequences and there are bad consequences, right? So that's why our focus and our mission is to create awareness in our community about what we're doing, okay? We'll be touching a lot in compost, but I really want to share this with you because it's greater than just making compost at home, okay? So a big question, what is waste? When you call something waste, what does that mean? Sol?
Something that, waste to me is something that cannot be reused, something that cannot be perfect, something that
Exactly.
is not
Yeah, that it doesn't have a second life. We drink it, we like eat, and like, we throw it away, and we think, oh, that goes to a landfill or like a black hole and disappears. No, it doesn't disappear. It ends up somewhere. Have any of you been ever to a landfill, or any of you live in Doral? No, no one from Doral. Like, no offense to people in Doral, but there's a big, Mount Trashmore is there, and this is what it looks like. Just nothing gets separated. Yeah, when you drive by, you see green, but in the inside, they say what is happening on the other side of the landfill that is not visible to the residents because aesthetic reasons, right? Also, when you think about it, you're like, wow, like, why are we just burying all this material and generating waste, when in reality it's just our perception as a society. And we all have here the power to decide if something's going to become waste or not, depending on where this is going to end up, right? So just to give you a little bit more detail of what happens in a landfill, they are regulated on how high they can go on that hill. So they need to use heavy machinery to start packing and pressing that so they can accumulate more and they have a longer lifetime for their, for their landfill. So what happens when you're running that machinery over and over, you create what is called anaerobic conditions. Anaerobic conditions is when there is a lack of oxygen. Lack of oxygen, you don't have the right microorganisms. You're basically not separating anything. You have like all the chemicals that could be leaching through and also creating like groundwater pollution. So there's a lot of like negativity about landfills, and that's our enemy number one, because in the landfill we're not repurposing and reusing the material. We're literally just creating waste. One thing that is very shocking, and I think you would agree with this, excuse me, but in the US, we represent, sorry, in the US, we represent 4% of the global population. However, we generate 13% of the global waste. We're number one in waste per capita. And I think this is not a surprise, because every time that anyone like goes to the dumpster, you see how much packaging you're bringing, like how much trash is. Like, we're there like almost every day. And I think that walk to a dumpster should be a reflection in ourselves. Okay, how much am I generating as an individual? How much trash, how am I contributing, Why am I purchasing products, that are covered and wrapped up in plastic, those kind of things. So we need to pay attention to that. But it's incredible the amount of waste that we generate. So here, it's key to understand compost. Why? Because in compost, we do the contrary that happens at the landfill. For composting, we separate food scraps, okay? So anyone can tell me here, what have you compost, or what have you thought that, oh, well, like I didn't know, but I could compost this? Anyone? Yeah, or like what you can, like items that you can compost, like
Food scraps?
yeah, food scraps like banana peels, fruits, veggies, pasta, bread, coffee grounds, tea bags, hair. How was that? Eggshells, yeah, eggshells. So a lot of things are compostable. I am compostable. Like we are compostable. This is organic matter. Okay. However, we focus here on food scraps, right? So what we do, okay, with composting is defined as the natural breakdown of organic matter. All we do and all we gather is three basic ingredients. One is our carbon source that comes from landscapers or yard trimmers or anything that is brown, okay? So if you can pick up like your dry leaves, or if like, anything that is brown, you can just basically add it, even like paper bags, okay, or cardboard that is like not printed or anything, you can use it as a source of carbon. Then you need your nitrogen source, which are your food scraps, okay? And then the third and very key ingredient is oxygen. At our farm, what we follow is the ASP composting, that stands for ideated static pile. So these pipes that you see here are connected to a blower on the back. Have you been to like a bouncy house, or like that air blower is right behind here? And it's actually powered through solar energy every 30 minutes for 30 seconds. So it starts, and then we're inducing oxygen in order to create aerobic conditions. So again, this is like contrary to a landfill. We are doing aerobic conditions. Why? Because then we are creating the good guys. When we provide them oxygen, we have good bacteria, we have a good fungi, we have good nematodes. So it's imperative that we always create a system where we are oxygenating. So what is my recommendation if you are to compost? One, you can do it in a little box like this, okay? Or bigger. The bigger, the better, okay? Because we need volume. So the way that I recommend that you can compost at home is that you can create, okay, a lasagna of compost. So basically, always your first layer will be mulch, okay? As you can see, this box here has air, like air can flow through, okay? So I would put, a layer of mulch, okay, at the bottom. You could use like cardboard or paper bags from Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, or maybe like, from your own patio, or you just get it from the landscaper by your house. Then you put a cover of food scraps, so you start accumulating your food scraps there, okay? And then you cover it again with mulch. The reason for that is because if you leave the food scraps uncovered, you're gonna start getting like fly activity, okay? The ratio that we follow for composting is 30 parts carbon, 1 part nitrogen, okay? So I don't want you to, go into a lab and measure that, but if you do a layers, they will be fine, okay? Once that you complete, okay, this box, one thing that you have to do at home is ideation, because here we don't have the oxygen being induced or pushed through. And the best way to ideate is literally with a fork, like a pinch fork. I mean, if you just mix it. So once per week, you mix it and you allow all that to mix in good proportion. The smaller the pieces, the better, because there's more interaction. I know you're using the tumbler, okay, which they work fine. However, there is a process of maturation, okay, for compost that we're gonna show you here in a little bit. And the maturation process, it lasts about 90 days. And you want to integrate the native microorganisms on the ground to your compost, okay? So you have that interaction. And we'll get a little bit more into it on the next slide. But does this make sense to you?
Sorry, you said 30% carbon and how much?
Yeah, so 30 parts carbon, yeah, and 1 part nitrogen, okay? So typically, you wanna keep this in layers, okay? So once that you fill this up, okay, you can start filling up a separate box, okay? You let this mature. It's gonna take 120 days from beginning to end. So from the moment that we mix this until we get the finished compost, that is right here, it would be about 4 months, okay? Depending on how much you ideate, the faster will be. So at the very minimum, you want to ideate once per week, okay? So you allow all that oxygen to flow through. Make sense?
Francisco, so does your system, the way oxygen provides oxygen, does it replace the need to
Exactly,
do that?
yes, yeah. Yeah, so that's why we did it this way, because it's less labor intense. Because now imagine that we are collecting 35,000 pounds every week, and like we either like need a big equipment or a lot of people just moving them around. So this, we do it because it's labor efficient, okay? Yeah. It takes a little bit longer, okay, the setup, but it's doable. And here's what I wanted to show you, the composting phases, okay? So at the very beginning, we have the initiation phase, or we're like mixing, okay, the carbon with the nitrogen, okay, food scraps with mulch, we just can call it like that. Once that you mix those two, all these bacteria, they're gonna start activating, because bacteria and microorganisms are no different than us, in a sense that they need food, they need water, they need humidity, they need certain pH. But when you're putting these ingredients together, they are super happy and they strive, okay? So what happens here, okay, that you're gonna have this thermophilic phase, which is microorganisms that love the heat. The temperature on the compost can get up to 155, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's extremely hot. Like when you move the compost, you'll see the heat coming up. Maybe Quinn, when you have done compost and you move the pile, you see that steam like coming off the pile, you know, and that's telling you that it's working well. One sign, you know, to be aware is if you move the pile and you see gray or white inside the pile, that means that it's turning anaerobic, okay? So you are not moving it enough, okay? So that's very indicative that then like your compost is not being aerated, or it doesn't have enough oxygen to really have the good guys, okay? So just keep an eye, and I would like make a note of that, hey, if you see gray or white, that means that it's turning anaerobic, okay? So after, like, you know, all this process happens, we go to a maturation phase, okay, that is gonna take about 90 days, okay, for the maturation phase. Once we get there, you'll be able to tell that it's compost, because one, the temperature has dropped, okay, it's been already maybe like 4 months, and then you are unable to identify the parts. So for example, a banana peel is no longer a banana peel. An eggshell is no longer an eggshell. Like a core on the hob, like, you know, it's not gonna be, so you'll be able to, like, you know, now it looks like this. Beautiful, like, you know, it has this like brownish and dark color. You touch it and it's like not hot, okay? And it's just nature at work. And when you think about it, like, there are people that have like came up to us and say like, how are you guys doing this? Like, well, really, like, you know, there is like well, there is magic behind it, but it's just more nature at work, okay? So when you think about it, you're like, wow, like, and I'm gonna maybe, like, you know, show you this around a little bit so you can see it, but and you can touch it or smell it.
So I have a question. When I buy this kind of stuff, for example, there's like white pieces in there. That's what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the white pieces, you mean for the Miracle Grow, or?
Like fertilizers.
Yeah, so those are chemicals. That, like, yeah, if you see like the pellets like that, yeah, that most like it's not good, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Unless like you see this like fully organic, and it's literally like food scraps and mulch, and basically letting its time to mature and go through the entire process, okay?
What about, doesn't it get moldy, like in the heat while it's rotten, decomposing?
And that's a form of microorganisms. Like, you know, as soon as you're like mixing it, like, it's not gonna, you might sometimes get some mushrooms growing, okay, if you know.
Does it say, like, for instance, if I have it in my backyard, my dog is going around?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I won't be, yeah, so concerned about that, like, because typically, like, you know, when you're composting, you probably will be using it, you know, when you have like all that compost ready, you would apply it. I don't know, like, you know, what motion you might be growing, but I would say just keep moving it, okay? So you keep it like this, okay? Yeah. Yeah, so that's a good question, because one of the biggest concerns, okay, is it gonna smell, is it gonna be stinky? And at the beginning, when it's active, you could have certain smell, but in reality, when you're mixing the right proportion, there shouldn't be any smell. So let's say that it's smelling, okay, and it looks too wet, then you need more dry material. Dry material would be mulch, okay? But then if it's too wet, you do the opposite. You add more dry material until you find that balance. It's like riding a bike. So what I ask you is to observe what is happening. Don't be, oh, like, I don't know how to compost it. No, just like keep trying and try, like, okay, I'm gonna add more mulch. I'm gonna mix it more. But don't be, oh, it's smelly, I saw some fly, I'm gonna walk away, and well, you have to experience as part of the learning process, right? So just observe what is happening. It's either adding food scraps or adding mulch or mixing it. One of those three will be the actions, okay, to take.
So if you're having trouble getting enough like dry, like the brown, is there anything like in your house that can be used as like the brown material, like not just yard scraps?
You can use, if you get paper bags at the supermarket, you can get those, okay? You can use cardboard from Amazon packaging. Just make sure that you remove the stickers and all the plastics and make sure you cut it in pieces, okay? Small pieces, because small pieces are gonna create more interaction between the food scraps and the browns, okay? So that's it.
So you mentioned that you need carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen, and just now you mentioned that if your compost is too wet or too dry, is there a need to add additional moisture into your compost heaps?
Not because the food scraps, it has enough moisture, okay? So I want like wetted, okay? When you put food scraps there, you see that all that water that is coming from the fruits and the veggies that will be keeping enough moist. There is a test that you can do, like for example, and this, some stuff that we do there, you can do it as well. But basically you take, this to find out humidity, okay? You take a handful, okay, and you squeeze it. And then when it's in the process, like 1 or 2 drops, it tells you it's about 70% humid, which is good, okay? This is a little bit dry, because I'm not squeezing any water, but 1 or 2 drops is good. Then if it's like squeezing, like it's too wet, So it's just a test, an easy test to do, okay, to make sure that you have the right moisture in the compost.
They were asking about carbon material, and dried leaves are good too.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Anything that is brown, like natural, like you can use it, okay? Yeah, good questions.
Is it possible to add like cardboard boxes into the mix to the compost?
Like entire cardboard boxes?
Like if I have a bunch of cardboard boxes that
Yeah, you could use them. So you can, but just cut them and remove all the plastic and the stickers and all that. You just like cut it in pieces and then just add it in there. Yeah. So yeah.
If you wet the cardboard and shred it, or shred it then wet it, it will like blend more in the compost. Yeah, but basically it will do the same thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
The finer it is, the
Yeah.
it will break down. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it will take longer.
You know what is great too? If you like using, for example, Valentina loves using in the morning, we take all that pulp that is being just, so small, it's perfect for composting because it's so chopped down that it creates much more interaction, yeah. Yeah, like, so when you use that, basically a user rejects all the pulp, okay? So you get like all this beautiful pulp that is perfect for composting, yeah, yeah.
I would just say too, cardboard, if you think about the origin of where it's coming from the trees, and earlier people said uncompostable, so.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any chemicals added in the process of making the cardboard.
Yeah, so it would be brown cardboard, okay? So, but if you see one that is printed, like for example, I don't know, if you go buy a beer, right, they typically are colored, right, or they have that coated material. That's not good because those are microplastics. You don't want to add that into your compost mix. Yeah. Yeah. Then the other thing, I wanted to share that you just reminded me, one of my favorite documentaries is called Legacy, okay? It's by a French journalist, and one of the things that he shared is that the word human has the same root as the word humus. So we are humus, we are earth, we are planet Earth. Even though we're 70 or 75% water, we are earth, so that really like resonated to me, and I just wanted to share it with you. Okay. And Earth is also 70% water. Yes, yeah, exactly. So benefits of composting. Why are we doing this? One, we are enriching the soil. We are creating new life. When we apply pesticides and herbicides, yeah, people or farmers think, oh yeah, like, I'm killing the pests. But then what happens with all that chemical that falls on the ground? We're killing those microorganisms, and we are not regenerating, right? So then like we fall into a vicious cycle, because what is here is life. There is more than 50 billion microorganisms in one handful of compost. There's more life here in one handful than in the entire planet, like human beings. So when you think about it, if we don't protect our earth, okay, our soil, then we're gonna get in trouble. We're already getting in trouble, right? So how do we regenerate the soil? Because we're sending back all these nutrients in order to live and coexist with our environment. We're reducing waste. As you can see in Miami-Dade, 32.6% of the waste that we generate is fully compostable. But it's our decision. Are we gonna send it to a landfill? Am I gonna compost it at home? Am I gonna get a composting service? You decide. So you have the power as an individual to what you're gonna do next, right? We are eliminating greenhouse emissions. We're not creating methane gas, right? We are conserving the water. We're protecting biodiversity, because with climate change, when temperatures are fluctuating, then we have species that need to migrate to different type of climates. That creates friction, and then one of them will have to give up, right? Or like they will be taken. So we need to understand how all these temperatures are affecting not only like the level of the sea, the flooding, like everything that is being happening in our planet. And I think our planet will send us a letter, hey, like you're misbehaving, right? It's sending us signals, right? Like we have more flooding, we have more storms, we have more droughts. There are like, tornadoes in places that we have not seen before, like the Himalayas, like you don't see snow where there's been snow for millions and millions of years. And then like what are we doing now that we have created a state of unbalance? And we need to observe and see those signs, and okay, yeah, I'm not gonna change the entire world, but I can change myself and the way I act. And I think, and I really believe that you can tell more by your actions than by your words, right? When you think about like, every little action that you take, you're planting a seed. Maybe you start composting and doing it at home. Your neighbor is gonna look at you and like, oh, what is she doing now? Like, maybe like, you go and Google it. Oh, okay, compost, oh, I've never heard of it. But you are planting a seed in your, close circle of friends and family. So that we need to take those opportunities and contribute in that way. And obviously we create community engagement. I mean, we work very closely. I'll show you more with community gardens like Green Haven. They're amazing. They're in our town, serving underserved communities, helping them out, like understand about wellness and nutrition, and give away food, like food that has been grown through composting. So it's a beautiful thing to do. Any questions before we go? And does this make sense? Did you know all the impact that composting has? Or is this something new to you? Anyone? Any yeah.
It also impacts our health as well, because the way that we grow food with compost is we're doing it with microorganisms that
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about it, like, plants are no different than us. They need the right nourishment, right? So we need to give them the right soil and the right conditions in order for them to thrive. And when they're happy, we're happy because they're giving us all that nourishment so we can build up our immune system. So that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Great. So Compost for Life, as an organization here, shows us the power of a community. When say, oh, the Francisco doing all this, no, it's not me. It's like an entire community coming together. Yeah, like, I decided to do this because I'm passionate and it's the right thing to do. But as you can see, we are almost at 2.5 million of food scrap diverted from the landfill. And we literally started with like a 2002 Mitsubishi Fuso collecting food scrap from like, a few families, and more people are adding up, and then like it's just a beautiful thing. And then when you're holding the compost, you're like, wow, like, this is amazing. And when you meet people like, from like Green Haven, or like, you come here to Vizcaya and you see everything and the impact that we're creating, it gives you a great sense of fulfillment. So this number is equivalent, and we use what is called an EPA calculator, okay? The EPA calculator gives you an estimate or an equivalence of what does that mean. In this case, it means that we have planted more than 16,000 seedlings that this grow within a term of 10 years, and the carbon that they will capture, So it's kind of like putting into context the impact that we have when we are composting, all right? So with that, I wanted to show you how our program works for those people that say, what, I don't want to compost at home, but there's something that you can share, or maybe give the gift of a habit change, because maybe somebody, hey, like, I don't have the time to compost. You're going to be the expert composting at home, but then you can always encourage them to say, what, like, here is a service that you can start composting, and they make it very convenient. So the way it works is that we give one of these containers, okay, that you see here. Well, you can see it from there. It's a 5-gallon bucket. It comes with a resealable seal, okay? And people or community composters, they put all their food scraps here, okay? We come on a weekly basis, take the full one and drop off a clean one, okay? And then we are documenting every time that we come your environmental impact. So you have an access to a portal where you see how much you have diverted from your household. And then not only that, like every 6 months, you claim your compost. So you can get your finished compost, and then you just use it for your home garden or house plants. So we do the hard work for you, and yeah, you basically are part of our community. This is a service, okay, so we charge $20 per month for every hour week, or $30 per month for weekly service, okay? So if you're a household of like 2 or 3 people, I would recommend weekly. If you're just by yourself, and bi-weekly is fine. It depends on how much you cook. The other thing is that some people like putting their food scraps in a kitchen caddy. So you're like cutting and dicing, and then you just like put it in here, and then once a day you just transfer to this container. And on our welcome kit, it comes with just like a welcome pamphlet, and it tells you like what you can put in there and what not, and how the service works. And it's just optional. People might get the kitchen caddy or not, but we just try again, like just to make it as easy as possible, and you can pass this around so you see it. I know you're gonna be coming here soon, but just wanted to share, and we service Miami-Dade County and Broward County, and we do businesses and residents, okay? For the businesses, they get, like for example here, they have 4 of the 64-gallon carts. So they're pink in color, and we chose that, well, thank you to my wife, Valentina, but it's very Miami too, okay? So that's why we just wanted to make a clear distinction that pink is Miami, but pink is also compost, where the compost goes, okay? Any questions?
So you are currently going to people's houses to pick up, or you said businesses?
Yes.
But like small businesses, like have you thought about or tried to work with any larger institutions, like all the hospitals or like UM or FIU?
Yeah, so it's good that you're bringing that up. We actually service UM, okay? So we service their main halls. They're expanding to our third hall. We also service South Baptist Hospital, and Larkins just started this week. And it's funny that you say that because for South Baptist, it all happens at a climate summit for youth in Ramson School. I was giving there a talk, and one of the kids in the talk got inspired. I want to do something, I want to do this at my house, and his mom is an obstetrician. So he was so determined, a 12-year-old boy, and he was so determined. I said, Mom, we have to do this at home. But not only at home, you have to do it at your hospital. I was so like, okay, Harry. And then she reached out to me and said, hey, I have a meeting with the director of the hospital. And I went there, and like we explained the whole program, and said, yeah, let's make it happen. And like, you know, it's just like that, having that understanding and that persistency. And then Louis Aguirre from Channel 10 News did a full segment on Tomas and Chloe. These are the two teenagers that are really helping out, like, you know, with big businesses like that. Yeah, so it's a nice story. And then, needless to say, that Shireen was our doctor for Leticia. So it's like you see a community coming together. Yeah. And Vizcaya too. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And here, you know, it's, we use this poster for businesses. They have it like in their kitchen, in visible areas where people can compost. Actually, here we have a drop-off station for the community. So people can come to a farmer's market and drop off their food scraps, okay, at no charge. They just like bring it there, and we collect them on a weekly basis. And here you see our residential van, and this, the 64-gallon. This would be a 5-gallon, but it has the liner, okay, and this compostable liner. It just makes it easier for us to then wash the buckets, okay? And I wanted to show you, like, you know, this example, and this is actually happening here at the Vizcaya Garden and Museum. But one of the things that we have done with the Miami Beach Convention Center, there is a restaurant there that when you go outside, the restaurant is called Room. There is a food forest. Okay, so we are reusing all their compost, and we have our local farmers coming and farming there in a small scale, and they are growing in such a small area. Carrots, rosemary, mint. Like, for example, if the chef is gonna make or the bartender is gonna make a mojito, he goes outside, takes the mojito leaf, and it's like super fresh, and it basically tells the story, you know, because that's the way it's supposed to be, okay? So it mind the amount of transportation costs, you know, that they're reducing by doing this, and also telling a beautiful story, okay? And we have donated more than 95,000 pounds of finished compost. One of them has been Aloha Redland Farms. Also, the Seed School is a charter school by Hialeah, where they're also doing their own garden. Green Haven Project, we are very engaged with them and help in the hood, okay? So we really try to support, okay, this community movement, because this really helps out, like, continuing this process, okay? And it's a benefit for everyone. And then the last case study that I wanted to show you is in regards to Cisco System and the Miami Beach Convention Center. Cisco System did an event back in November for the first time. They had been doing it in Vegas for many years, but this time they decided to come here with only one request, that we reach zero waste in the event. And that was like, wow, like, how are we gonna do this? Because as you know, we are learning, little by little, right? So they call us and say, Francisco, can you like work this out, And I said, okay, let me think about it, okay? And then we presented what we call waste enhancement solutions. So we put together a team from Compost for Life and people that we know where we diverted, not like according to global standards, zero waste would be 90% diversion from the landfill. We reached 88%. We were like 2% short, but they were extremely happy. And the way we did it is that we created a board, okay, where everything was very visual, but this was an event of 3,000 people. And we separated at the source glass. We separated PET number 1. We separated, of course, food scraps, soft plastic, food cans. Everything got sorted out and then properly either donated, composted, repurposed, or reused, okay? So it was, a beautiful experience, and a lot of people were happy. And we were happy. You see there, like, we have the different sections. And if you see here, this is with aguacate. Have you been to aguacate? You see the cover, say Cisco. They use those polyester thing that they're very cool in this conference and events. We took that fabric, which is very good material, and we reuse them in a farm for farm animals, okay? So it's again, like, when we change our mind and we don't look at this as waste anymore, then we're able to like reuse it and repurpose it because it's a good material and we are dignifying the people that manufacture that item, okay? So I just, wanted to share that with you. I'll give you a little prize, okay, if you guess what this is. I can pass this around. Actually, this one that is lighter. I'm gonna start here. So if you wanna pass this around, okay. And where it's coming from, no? And you can open it and touch it if you want.
Something with algae, no?
We'll get there, so. One, I can pass this one to you here. Well, that one might be. Well, for the, yes.
Can you use food that's gone bad? Like, how spinach goes bad really fast? Could you use that in the compost or just like
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Like if you see it's going bad, you put it in the compost.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it's moldy, you put it in the compost. So don't put it into a landfill. So, yes. So any guesses or? Glass, yeah. So that, it's an easy one. So those were glass bottles. And that's one of the things that we're doing now. Okay, how do we prevent? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
The glass sand.
Yes.
So like I've noticed like in my neighborhood there's a lot of people just throw out furniture, chairs, mirrors, whatever the case is, whatever there's no use in their home anymore. And they just pile it up. What do you suggest to do with that type of material?
Yeah, well, it's more thinking about how you're gonna carry that and where it's gonna go, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a challenge. I mean, if you cannot use it yourself, how can we donate it? In the case of the event for Cisco, there were like items that were big, and we say, you know what, we're gonna bring a pickup truck and bring it to Goodwill, and we just donated it there, and they received it. So it's okay, and maybe finding out that connection. It's like food donations. There are entities like U.S. Food Rescue. All they do is connecting people who are overproducing food with people that need food, right? So how can you beat that the bridge, okay? Yeah, so that is glass sand. And that came from wine bottles. And I'm gonna show you one more here. So this one is even finer. This one is finer than sand from the beach. So you can touch it there. So all that has been basically pulverized into glass sand. And that used to be glass like Prosecco bottles, that used to be wine bottles, that used to be like just regular, this type of items. So one of the things that we're doing is, in some cases, integrating this into a compost that works as a mineral source, okay, and also gives some soil structure, but it can also be used to make more bottles if we want to, okay? So you want to touch this one? Yeah, you see how fine it is?
And you're doing all of this process here in Miami?
Yeah, so we started doing it like we're doing a test, okay? And then we are also partnering with glass recycling facilities. So we need to accumulate a lot of glass so they come and pick it up. When you think about it, you're like, wow, like, there is so much glass that we send to a landfill and it has a negative impact. This is also glass aggregates, and these are used to repair highways, okay? So when you think about it, like, this is so interesting. You're like, wow, okay, well, like, we're repurposing a material that has been used. So this made at 100% from glass, recycled glass.
Way better than radioactive waste.
Yes. Yeah, so just wanted to give you, these examples so you're aware, okay, that we have the power to make it waste or not, okay? So any questions so far?
So this also goes into making compost?
Well, I mean, you don't have to do it, okay, but we are doing some testing now, okay? This goes to highway repair, okay? We don't make this, it's just a glass recycling company, but I got some samples.
I have a lot, like, I only drink out of glass bottles, so I have a lot of them. And if they go to waste or like recycling, they do get repurposed in some way, right?
Well, unfortunately, in Miami-Dade, less than 1.5% of glass is recycled. So there's a big problem, and we started to service businesses only that want to recycle glass. Like literally, we started 2 weeks ago, okay? So that's something new that we are doing because it's very good material. Glass, you can recycle infinite times without losing its grade. So when you think about it, then you're like, wow, like if we do it right, we can send it to a right place. We're just trying to make sure that we utilize that material again, okay? I know Ian is very interested in starting something like this here, but we'll see where it goes, okay? But just, just wanted to show you that this is material that could be very easy reutilized, okay, or figuring out what we can do about it. Any questions before we go into our planting activity?
That's exciting.
Yes, yeah. It's mind blowing when I thought, I was like, wow, like, it's incredible. Well, so far, okay, we're not offering residential services, like we're just starting on this, but if you have a business that, it would be interested, we can talk to them, and then, like, for example, here, I'm sure, what's that?
So have a drop-off location.
Exactly. So I think we're gonna start up a drop-off location. Like we have a little warehouse in Kendall that we can be open and you bring your glass, So.
Good example, our friend here from Canada, the LCBOs have the system where they accept any of the beer bottles and things like
Yeah.
that.
And we can do that, like, like this group here, I could give you my contact information, and if you want to bring your glass, if you don't mind it, we just don't have the doorstep service right now, but if you say.
Be like a drop-off location for glass and for cardboard boxes and for all these things for people to like deliver.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, pick up would be hard for you guys, but as a drop-off
Yes.
location, then you can just repurpose
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, go ahead, Sol.
I was gonna say that taking glass to like different thrift stores, because they accept a lot of different glass materials, which then somebody else can use it. And then some community gardens may receive cardboard because they need it in their farming practices. So finding out like what local organizations are near y'all to drop off, cardboard and
Absolutely, yeah, because we're doing such a good job with the food scraps. Then it's looking, oh wow, now there's a problem also with the glass and ore materials, right? But we had to start somewhere. so yeah. So does this all make sense? Are you learning something that is new? Okay. Now I like to invite you, okay, just for you to come here, okay, and move your body, and maybe Quinn, you as an expert horticulturist, you can help us out here with the planting activity, okay? I brought some seeds, some little pots, and you can use, the compost that we have here. And the idea is that we take one of these, and obviously you're going to be taking this home. And I don't have glove for you, but what I would suggest, okay, is that you come here, you open a little hole, you set your intention, that's very important, okay, where are you planting this, what are you expecting out of this, and then you have different options from eggplant, squash, carrots, and also pumpkin, and we can just basically put it here and put some love, and then you take it home and you water it and let it flourish. Okay, so this compost that has been made through our process, and we have put a lot of good intention to make this a reality, and that's one of the reasons that our organization's name is Compost for Life, because we're giving life again. This didn't end up in a landfill, but this is not rocket science that any of us can do this when we are determined to do something. Okay, so please help yourself. Okay, and this you can also, if you want to take some compost home, feel free to take more. We have a lot of compost here. Okay, so you can take some home. And the other thing I wanted to share with you, that Vizcaya has been very nice to us, and they're actually covering the cost. I know you want to compost at home, but they're covering the cost up to 5 people, okay, for 2 months, okay, the first 2 months for composting services, okay. So if you're interested, or maybe you want to have a friend to start composting, you can take one of those buckets, and then I will need the information from where that bucket will be, and all the address, email, phone number, name of the person, or if you're going to be yourself, and then pick up location, because if you live in a building, hey, I'm going to leave it in this area, or we just need to get those details. But this is for you, okay, as a token of appreciation, and it's completely optional, okay. So, yes. And our favorite quote, okay, from Mahatma Gandhi is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And that's one of the things that inspired me to do what we're doing today. I watched his movie, I read his book, and that was very inspiring to me, that you're like, wow, people can do amazing things, So, yeah. Also, you want to take it home? What? Another plant? Yeah, of course. Yeah, take as many as you want. Yeah, yeah. I would put like a couple of them. Yeah, because they would grow. Yeah, this. Let's see if we can. Yeah, with those two, you should be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't know they were so little.
Yeah, they can be tiny. Any advice from you, Queen, in order to
Seeding.
yeah, seedling?
Just for the carrots, I would do, yeah, I'd do like maybe 3 or so in there, just in case some don't germinate. And then,
What's the watering like? How do we, and when do we water?
so what I would do is I'd thoroughly water it until the water comes out of the bottom at first. And then until this, like before the seed actually comes out of the soil, the seedling comes out of the soil, just make sure it stays moist. In like a semi-sunny to sunny area. And then once you see that, you know, the plant come out of the soil, go ahead and put it in full sun. And then for the carrots, you're gonna want to transplant a little bit sooner so that you don't disturb the actual root that comes down. Same with the radish or the beet. But for the other ones, you can just wait until the roots are coming out of the bottom of your cup, or you can poke a hole out of these as well, just to make sure there's some drainage coming out. And then out of that hole, you can see the roots kind of coming out. That's a good indicator to transplant it into a bigger pot.
And what about the pumpkin?
So with that one, you'll probably. Oh, the what? Pumpkin. Which pumpkin?
No, there was one seed that was pumpkin seed.
Oh, for the pumpkin seed?
Yeah.
Yeah, same idea. So you'll go ahead and put the pumpkin seed in, make sure it's moist, and then once you have a plant actually growing out of it, you can wait until the soil dries out before you add more water. A lot of times people are fearful of like not giving their plant enough water, or they give it too much water all the time, which can create anaerobic conditions.
Yes.
Where the plant doesn't have enough, because plants' roots need oxygen as well. So by allowing it to dry out, the oxygen gets in there before you add more water.
Now, one question, Quinn.
Yeah.
For this pot, do you need to transplant it, or can you just put it as it is onto the ground, and that would integrate onto the soil, or?
So it will, but a lot of times with those pots, it takes a while for the actual pot to break down.
Okay.
So what happens is the roots will stay wrapping around it until it does. But these are really great because you can transplant it and then just go ahead and throw it in the compost.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that's the idea. It's just that sometimes it takes a little bit longer for these to actually break down.
Yes.
You can always rip it from the bottom a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's a good
allow
idea.
that. Nice. Good. And you can do more than one if you want, okay? Yes, you can even name it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Talk to it, tell it you love it.
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible that they do it. Yes. Yeah, there's this documentary that I think is called Tree Intelligence, how they communicate with each other, and mycelium, and that's amazing.
What was it called?
I think it's called Tree Intelligence. Yes. But they are like how trees speak to each other when they're in need. Fascinating.
If not everyone takes a bucket, we can do a social media like giveaway or something like that. We can coordinate with our
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so any thoughts, comments, or maybe something that you want to share about, what we just learned today? I would love to hear, maybe anything.
I'm taking away I'm compostable. I've always known that we're organic matter and we are earth and all of this, but I just never put it in those words.
Yes. Yeah, we're part of this planet, okay? So we are absolutely compostable.
See that as a service you can provide, as a
Yeah, well, we're
like green berries and all that, which is
Yeah.
like an alternative to all the chemicals that go into.
yeah, and I think it's like few states that have legalized human composting, but I know on the West Coast, I don't know if in Canada they are doing it, but we are really trying to get people to compost food scraps first. Then we can, like, yeah, so it's a challenge.
So, I noticed on your sheet of like what not to compost, you have like no meat, no dairy kind of thing. And I remember like in Canada, I would throw all food waste.
Yeah, so it's true. So animal protein is compostable. The reason that we don't take it is because it brings pest activity to our farm, okay?
To the farm.
Yeah, to our farm. So we try to minimize. I mean, you can still put it in there, but we don't want a lot of animal protein, okay? We don't accept.
What does the animal protein do? It's just like it could.
No, it will compost. However, we had an issue with rodents at the farm, okay? They were coming and we were like, yeah, we need to keep it clean, yeah.
And doesn't having a certain amount also bring certain pathogens that will throw off the microorganisms?
True, that's true, especially if it's raw meat, okay? Then that's another concern. Same thing with poop from animals, right? Like pets.
Yeah.
People ask us that, like diapers, can we we don't want to take that because even though that we reach certain temperature, we don't want to expose our team to pathogens, okay, as part of the process.
And it reaches its temperature naturally through the process.
Natural, yes, yeah. And that's one thing also to check. You can buy a thermometer and then stick it in there, and then you'll see there are actually thermometers specific to compost, you know, that it will tell you, yeah, you're in the active phase, you're in the too hot, you know, make sure you move it. So you can use those.
Sorry, so if I'm composting in my backyard, I should also avoid anything that will attract animals, right?
Yes, and the key there too is make sure you cover it with mulch, brown material. Don't leave food scraps exposed because you're gonna have pest activity, fly activity, maybe a smell. So just always top it off with mulch, okay? Yeah, or brown, like.
And it has to be in like a container like that.
Or bigger. I mean, or like chicken wire. Like for example, say there's you can buy chicken wire at Home Depot. It's not like the best looking one, but you can put a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. So yeah. So it's.
It can't be like a pail. It has to have.
Yeah, you need to have openings. You need to have holes so it drains air that goes through. So make sure that, for example, she has a tumbler that you move it, and it has basically it's ideating the compost. Okay, you just have to make sure that you do it at least like once per week. Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments or things that you learned that you didn't know, or maybe something that you wish you would have learned?
last part was really cool.
Uh-huh.
Just like saying
Yeah.
what other materials aren't being properly recycled or repurposed.
Yes. And actually, part of this class, we are going to be working with the county, okay, and how we can restore coastline ecosystems because we are so susceptible to flooding in this part of the country that we need, why are we sending or purchasing sand when we can create it with the waste, okay, or the glass bottles? So it's really changing, okay, the process. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do. It's more of a matter of, okay, let's bring this together. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, how many people work with you at Compost for Life?
We're 8 people, 8, yes. And We have people in Broward. We have one person that dedicates to community outreach and school educational programs. We recently released a book, a children's book, that is the story of Juanita. Juanita is our dog. He's a rescue from Liberty City, and he's at the farm, and then he visits a rooster in Calle Ocho, then a manatee in Miami Beach, a flamingo. So it's, yeah, let me say, yeah. But we posted it on the Instagram, in Compost for Life Instagram account. And the idea here, is to reach to children's, because we have school programs, and the idea is, okay, well, let's do a compost talk, but then we're gonna read the book, okay, which is funny and informative, and then at the end, Juanito comes and say hello to everyone, So that's the idea. Yes. But yeah, just little by little, trying to make a difference, and I think we are all on this together, and we can always share this knowledge and these practices with your friends and your loved ones, and inspire them, that there's something that is completely doable. When I first even told my family that I was stopping my career to do this, they thought I was picking up garbage, Again, it's I was already convinced. I didn't really care what they thought. They loved me and I loved them, but now they're like, oh wow, it's so cool. Yes.
Question, so let's say someone signs up for the bucket, $20 a month, and they live in an apartment. Somebody from your team goes to that building and
Yeah, so for apartment buildings, we come to your doorstep as long as we don't have to take a elevator or do a check-in. If you want doorstep service in that, there is a $10 additional service, or you can say, you know what, I'm gonna leave it at the lobby, and then you can send us a picture and we'll pick it up. But today we have, 5 buckets for any of you that you can take, and the first 2 months will be paid, okay, by Vizcaya. Okay, so that's very nice of Vizcaya. Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm so grateful for the information that you shared,
Uh-huh.
and I think that composting was, it's a form of taking back your control, right? Like you mentioned earlier, it's like we can't really do much about the climate change or the world or how things are becoming about, but this is just a form of taking back your power and living in neighborhoods that are maybe like a food desert or things like that. This is a good start.
Yes, no, absolutely, and we love being involved when community members come together and say, you know what, let's build a food forest here. We will be more than happy to bring you a lot of compost to build it, because that's what we're all about, community engagement. We have so much compost right now that it's just like, we are partnering with a lot of people, and that's opening the bridge, the sense of, oh wow, if I put my food scraps here, I'm creating more of this, and we can regenerate. And it's like that simple, but we need to make it happen. We also open up a compost community ambassador opportunity where anyone in the city can say, you know what, I want to be an ambassador for Compost for Life. We give you a 64-gallon container, and then people in your neighborhood can use it as a drop-off. So the service is complimentary to you. However, who is going to use it, it's going to be $10 per month, and they can drop it off as much compost as they want, okay? They get a combination code, okay, so they can access it, and that's the way it works. And then if you are the host, you're responsible for, keeping it nice and clean, and make sure that, it doesn't become a mess, So yeah, if you're interested, you can apply online, okay? You go to compostforlifemiami.com, and then I think it's an area that says get involved, and then you apply, and then we'll contact you and go over the details. Yeah, so you see, there are different ways that we can create engagement and make things happen, from composting at home from being a host, from maybe like coming and volunteering, like so many like, you know, different things that we can do together. So, yeah. So.
Is there anything you would suggest we could do, like at the city or county level, to encourage more composting?
No, that's a great question because, and that's something that we're fighting right now. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Under the current code, they see ourselves that we're collecting waste. So we're collecting solid waste, and they want to regulate us as an industrial facility, when in reality we're farmers. We belong in a farm zone. Now, the District 5 Commissioner, Aileen Higgins, I came to her office. She had no idea that this was going on. And she's helping us out where she put a hold on the legislator. And on December 12th, it passed as an agenda item. What does this mean? That after the item passed on December 12th, the mayor, Cava, has 90 days to report on the state of composting in the county and propose a new legislator, okay? Because literally, like, they were trying to shut us down of what we're doing. But it's thinking about it, like when you're convinced and you know what we're doing is the right thing, you continue. And I knew from day one that we're gonna face this type of obstacles. But the good thing that we have the right mayor, okay, with us. We have the commissioners that they're supporting us. So it's just more of a matter of going through a process, okay? And I think the best way, you know, to support this is to create awareness, to talk to people, to do it yourself, and voice, you know, yourself about like this situation, because right now we're in the county going through a crisis with landfills. I don't know if you heard the situation with El Doral, that the plant burned down. There was an incinerator there, and there were like this big fire going on, where it lasted about like 3 or 4 days. They shut down the entire facility, and now we only have capacity in our landfills until 2026. Typically, we need to have at least 5 years of space or time before we start building now, because they had to shut down that incinerator. Now we're so limited. So now composting is like imperative, like it's absolutely needed in order to expand the life of the landfill, the things that you still send there. But it's, you know, it's a lot going on right now. So it's just, we need to stay, you know, aware and understand what is happening. And I'm happy that you brought this up, because it's not easy, but we need to educate our elected officials and tell them that we are demanding these solutions to be part of the norm, okay? So yeah.
It'd be nice if, like, publicly they would invest in companies that are already doing the work, so they can expand operations, you know, and
Yes.
be able to reach more people.
Absolutely, absolutely. One, I think we're gonna get there, but we are proving ourselves, right? Okay, there's something that is doable. We can do it as a community. Now we need to scale up. There are 34 municipalities within Miami-Dade County. And if we can get one municipality to do it citywide, let's say Coral Gables or City of Miami or Miami Beach, once one do it, like, there's a sense of competition, and then the other mayor will want to implement that as part of the solution, you know? So we need to make that happen.
What do you think's the biggest barrier to making that happen? Just like education?
Educate and legislator, because the code is obsolete. Like the way we think about this being waste is old thinking. So now that we know, it's okay, we're challenging the system. We're saying like, yeah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to contribute to a landfill. So we need to change the legislator. And I have spoken with people from the state of Florida about this, and they're in full support, but it comes down to a local decision. You know, say, yeah, we are in support of you, but you need to convince the local authorities, which I think it will happen, but it doesn't happen from one day to another.
You know, sort of, while you're at it, I think like Canada, as you know, backwards as things are happening right now,
Yeah.
we've banned single-use plastic, which is incredible.
Yeah,
And
amazing.
when we came here to Florida, I was like, how is there
Yeah.
plastic everywhere? So while you guys are talking to legislators, you can push that as well.
Yes,
Because the amount
absolutely.
of plastic that gets used all day, every day with like Uber Eats and all that, it's absolutely insane.
No, it's incredible. It's incredible. It's heartbreaking, to be honest. So, yeah.
So it's like Canada's already doing it.
Yes, yes, yes.
There's countries in Europe that are
Yes.
doing it. It's doable. It exists.
Yeah, no, and especially here that we live in such a beautiful place. I mean, we're right by the ocean, right by the Everglades. It's amazing. I mean, we need to be the example for the rest of the communities. I mean, we are in tune and connected with nature directly, and we need to do something about it. It's like, it needs to happen, you know, but it's about bringing our community together.
So with the hospitals that you work at, is there some sort of like tax write-off when they incorporate that? Because I work at Nicholas Children's and I love to ask them to do this. But
Yeah.
I already know how it is. Like they're just kind of gonna like for me, it's like I would love to do it for the environment, but
Yes.
it's gonna be someone who's like, what's in it for me?
Yeah, well, and that's a good question because we need to be prepared for that. You could do a tax write-off. You need to work with your accountant, but not only that, you can actually offset the cost of waste management because no matter what, you have to pay for waste to be hauled from your location to a landfill. So if now you're reducing 30, 40% of your waste because you're composting, that means that you don't have to pay for, let's say, every day pickup or like 3 times per week pickup. You can only have service 1 time or 2 times. That you reduce your costs and then you pay a portion of that savings to our community, okay, in order to service the compost. So that's another way that people, like for example, in the South Baptist Hospital, they are cost neutral. And like they're not spending 1 penny more and they're composting.
Oh wow. So do you have like a business email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can give me my card. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, but that's a good point because it's like we love the environment. We're doing it for the right things. But when you're talking to business owners, they have a different mindset. I mean, they need to stay in business, right? So they're looking at the cost. Okay, how much, and we make it very affordable. Okay, so that way it's cost neutral, or they can even save money when they're doing it. Okay. Yeah, and then the other thing, they can even like offset the cost of if they're buying organic fertilizer, then they don't have to buy it. We'll bring it to them, or if they're using pesticides and herbicides, like for example, in the case of Vizcaya, every 6 months they get that truckload as part of our program, like at no charge. So, you know, so it's like there are ways, it's just more of putting the numbers together. Yeah, so, yeah, but good question.
Why did you decide to kind of like place the cost on the people that are composting as opposed to the people that need the compost?
Yeah, because I see this as 2 different businesses. Okay, one is where we're picking it up, okay, and one is where we're taking it. Most of the compost that we give is we're giving it away, and it takes 120 days in order.
So why did you do that? Because it's like the people that need it will actually pay for it. You know, as opposed to going to a store, they'll pay for it.
Yeah.
It's like to get to entice anybody to compost.
Yeah.
Like you're already
Doing the.
stretching it for them
Yes.
to be like, okay, I'll put it in a separate bin. You know, it's like you have to make it easier for them, and then
Yeah.
people will actually pay no matter what.
Yeah.
Carry the bear of the cost.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be a different like business model that could be interesting too.
It'd be easier to convince people to compost.
Yes. Yes.
The way I see it.
Yeah. Maybe having more people participating too in the program because we're doing. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't cost you anything. Someone picks it up, and the people
Yeah,
that
but
buy it, buy it no
they
matter
need
what.
to buy it at the end. Yes. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah. That could be an interesting way to do it too. So, yeah, I haven't thought about that before.
Yeah, it might like increase the
Yeah.
amount.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Good, good. How do you like it? Good? Good. Did you learn something? Good. What do you plant there? Pumpkin? Nice, nice.
Painted unusual.
Oh, beautiful. Nice. Well, great. Anything else, Shayla, or?